All right, today's going to be a shorty video, and I just want to talk about sample licensing and using sampled content with Splice specifically, and how you can protect yourself from a copyright claim. So before we begin, I just want to say this is not a sponsored video. I'm not getting paid to make this video. I'm going rogue. Splice doesn't even know that I'm making this video. But the idea here, right, is that samples on Splice are royalty free, and that includes for commercial use, which is great, right? But sometimes the bots will issue a claim against a Splice sample, and that can be a big headache for music creators. So what you can do is you can download what's called your certified license from Splice, and you use that to dispute any claims that do arise. All right, so what I'm going to show you today is how I was taught to protect myself in the event of something like a copyright claim. So you're using these samples on Splice. You have permission to use them commercially, right? And, oftentimes we use things like individual drum samples, or we change samples if we use them, we change them significantly if we're using something that is a little more identifiable or something more melodic. And a lot of times, depending on the type of work you're doing, you're going to specifically avoid using something that's more melodic. You're going to stick with like one shots and things like that. So depending on what you're doing, you may or may not need to use this a ton, but for certain things, especially like if you're making music for sync, they're going to want to know that you have the licenses ready and there and able to go. So this is what I do to protect myself just in case. And so what I do is I have folders for different clients on my computer, and then within those folders, I'll have folders for different albums or different songs. And so within each song folder, I'll have like the Pro Tools session and any other information, like if they sent me stems to start with, for example, stuff like that. I might have a notes document, and then I'll also have a sampled content folder. And so within my sampled content folder, I have a bunch of licenses that I have downloaded. And that's the actual legal license that shows that you have the rights to use this. And then I'll also have a little text document that has, the name of each sample that we used, what track it's on, what it's used on. So for example, if it's a kick sample, I'll say kick one, if it's on the kick one track within Pro Tools. And then I'll have the name of the actual sample, so the whatever.wave. And then I'll have where it's from. So usually it's like from Splice, for example. And then the only other thing that I'll have written down for each sample is I'll have the actual name of the PDF file that is the license for that specific sample. And so the basic point is, right, to protect yourself from something like a copyright claim, what you do for each sample that you use is you go and you download this PDF license file that shows that you have the right to use the sample. So if someone claims against you and it's because of that sample, it has to be because of that sample, right? Then what you can do is you can send that PDF and be like, here's the proof that it's okay. And then hopefully you're off the hook, right? And I can actually show you an example of a sample license here. Let me open one up. So here's an example of one. I might blur out a bunch of stuff just to be safe because it is, my specific content license. But you can see kind of the format. It's just a really short PDF document. It has stuff like my full legal name, and it has stuff like the name of the actual audio file that I am using. And details about Splice, stuff like that. So this is what you want to acquire in order to prove that you have the right to use the sample. All right, so what I like to do with Splice, right, is I like to search for a sound. So I might go kick, whatever, and I'll be like, I'll listen to all the different kicks, decide which one I like. I'll heart the ones that I like that I might want to use. And that's great because it makes them populate here in your likes section, right? So you can see which ones you've most recently liked, and you can really quickly like A/B test between a few different ones that you're thinking about for a track. So that's great. Once I decide I want to use one, I will add it to my library, and then I will show the enclosing folder, and I will drag and drop it into Pro Tools while holding Option to import properly, right? But that's just what you want to do to use the sample, right? So if you want to be very careful, what you might want to do at the same exact time is also download the certified license and add it to your sample licenses folder for your project. And that can save you a huge headache later of trying to like sift through all your sounds or run searches for a specific file name, stuff like that, and find the file and, generate that license. It's easier to do it as you go along, which hopefully makes a lot of sense to some people. But, if you're operating in your likes folder, collection, whatever it's called, like I like to do, that's not an option here, right? And it can be very frustrating if you're not familiar with how it works. So what you actually have to do is you have to go to sounds, right? So it's in your actual library. So I have my likes, and that's going to be different from what I've actually added to my library, what I've actually used, what I've actually downloaded, right? So you go to sounds. And it makes sense once you think about it why you can only access your license within sounds, because you only have a license to the sounds that you've actually downloaded, that you've actually used credits to access, to gain access to, right? So you have your sounds in this folder, in this library, I guess. And what you do is you go to the same drop down here for the sound. What is it, like a little hamburger, the 3 dots, whatever it's called, I forget. And you click on that, and now it's going to be an option here. So generate certified license. So what you do is you put in your full legal name here, and then if you have an artist or producer name that's different than that, you can put it in there. And then you click generate certified license, and that will download a PDF onto your computer into your downloads folder automatically. And then what I like to do is then I'll take that PDF and I will copy and paste it into my folder for the client session. So I'll copy and paste it within that song folder. I will have that sample licenses folder and I will copy and paste it in there. So again, that sample licenses folder that's protecting me in case of a copyright claim has a bunch of PDFs. So one PDF for every single sample that I used. And then it has like a master text file that has information on every single one of the samples I use. So what track they're on, the name of the sample, where I got it from, and the name of the actual license that it is connected to. And I think that's it. And so from here, once you have that PDF downloaded and put into your folder and organized, what you can do is you can use that document, that PDF document, and you can upload it when you submit your release to show your proof of license. And just keep in mind that this does not protect you from getting flagged to begin with. So the bots are out there, they're looking for things that might be an issue in terms of copyright. You might still get flagged, you might still get claims against you, but what this protects you against is it allows you to dispute any claims that do come up so you don't have to worry. So just keep that in mind. You might still get flagged, you might still get some claims, but it's not something to stress about because you just have to submit that proof of license against the claims so that you can dispute them, and then hopefully everything just gets resolved. So I think that's about it. I'm going to put some links in the description with more information for you all, so please feel free to check those out if you feel so inclined. Other than that, I come out with new videos every single Wednesday. I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/CatoNoise. It helps keep this channel up and running. I don't do a ton of, sponsored content. I try to keep that to a minimum and just kind of focus on topics that I found helpful or my students have found helpful over the years. So, if you feel so inclined, please check out the Patreon. It does support my channel. Thank you so much to my Patreon patrons. We do have additional content on there. We have a Discord server we're hanging out on, and we have a book club that's all about audio engineering and music production, and it's kind of just an excuse to chat in the voice channel almost every single week. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that, and thank you so much for hanging out. Okay.